Hello and welcome back to the garden. Today we're going to be planting out cabbages that were sown a few weeks ago, and we're also going to be planting some tulip bulbs into pots. So let's head into the vegetable garden and have a look at the cabbages. So now we're going to plant out the cabbages that we sowed about 8 weeks ago. If your bed's not been prepared, so this has had some homemade compost added to it quite a few weeks ago to let that sort of mix together with the compost that was in. If you haven't done that, or you haven't got any homemade compost, you can feed the bed with a general fertiliser such as fish blood and bone or chicken manure pellets. So once that's done, all we need to do is to plant these in. So take your cabbage. They've been a little bit eaten by some of the slugs and snails that have been in the greenhouse, so any leaves that are really badly damaged can come off, and if you've got any leaves that are yellowing, take them off as well. Now with cabbages and brassicas at this time of year, what you want to do is plant them really deep. So when you get the windy weather later on in the season, they tend to suffer from windrock. So you want to plant them as deep as possible, and then not only as deep as possible, but you really do need to firm them in. So get them as firm as possible in the ground, and that will prevent them from rocking in the wind. So it's just a case of just filling the bed up, and then once the bed's been filled, we need to look at protecting them. So in the summer you have to protect them from cabbage white butterflies, because they will come and decimate your crops when they lay their eggs. In the winter we need to protect them from pigeons, because the pigeons will see this as a source of food and they will literally strip your crop bare within a day. So I'll get this finished off planting, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look at protecting the crop with some netting. So for crop protection for the cabbages, all we've got is some EnviroMesh, which is really fine. I use this mainly for the butterflies, but again, you don't want to use mesh that's too big, because otherwise little birds could get trapped in it. So this stops anything getting into the bed. So all we've done is some canes or some posts hammered into the corner to get them as deep as you can to make it secure, a plant pot on top, and that just stops the post going through the netting. Then all you need to do is pull the netting over the top and then start to clip it in. So you just need to make it as tight as possible to give the crop the best room to grow. All I'm using is some plastic clips to clip it on, and again just need to make it as tight as possible with no gaps, just to stop anything from getting inside. And again, it's just pulling it down at the edge, and then we'll tidy the corners up and make that totally secure. And that's the best way to protect your cabbages and your brassicas. So that's the cabbages finished off. We're now going to head into the potting shed, and we're going to go and put some tulip bulbs into pots. Okay, so now we're going to look at planting tulip bulbs. So these are quite large bulbs compared to the snowdrops that we planted last week. Now they can be quite fickle in your flower borders, in that you can plant these this year and they will grow in spring, but next year there is no guarantee that they'll come back again. So I'm going to plant them in pots and see if I can get a better result that way. So all I've got is two different sized pots. So the smaller pot is here, half filled with compost and horticultural grit. Again, a 70-30 mix of 70% compost, 30% grit. And it's pointy end up and the flat side down. So because it's a smaller pot, all I'm going to do is plant 3 in there together. Now you want to give it plenty of room. Tulips have quite large leaves, so you need to give them room to come out together. And if you cram the pot too full, you run the risk of them not actually developing very well. Now, as with all bulbs, you should plant them at least double the depth of the bulb. So only half fill the pot, put the bulbs in, and then just top up with your compost mix. Don't want to fill it all the way to the top, otherwise you run the risk of when it gets wet or if you water it, that the soil starts to come out and overflow. Now, as with any bulb, you add the grit because you want it to be well drained. Bulbs don't like sitting in really wet compost, so that's why you're adding the grit. Also, you don't need to overwater them. Like I say, they don't want to be sat in water, so keep them moist but not too wet. So that's the small one. I've also got a bigger pot, and in this one, because it is bigger, I can put an extra bulb in. So depending on what size pot you've got will depend how many you want to pop in there. So as with this one, you can do 4 quite comfortably and easily, and it's just exactly the same. They're filling that up to the top of the pot. So that's pretty much it for planting these, and it's the same with any bulb. It doesn't just have to be tulips or your snowdrops. Daffodils you can do in exactly the same way. Again, just make sure that you give them plenty of room because of the size of the bulb. The bigger the bulb, the more room they need. So why don't you give bulbs a go in pots this year? So that's it for this week. There's links at the end to previous episodes so you can catch up with any jobs that you've missed. There's also the links to Facebook and Instagram where there's more top tips and helpful hints. We'll see you back in the garden next week.